Senator Hastings, Representative Nass, distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary. My name is Tyler Clark, representative from House District 6, and I'm here to present LD116, an act to require a 24-hour waiting period prior to abortion. Let me first start by saying I didn't submit this as part of a broader scheme of ending abortions. It's not my intent to make it harder for a woman to have an abortion. That's not the idea behind it at all. The reason I submitted this bill was because a very good friend of mine, she was 18, she was unmarried, and she was pregnant. She told me about a story of how she went to a clinic to get a test. The day she found out she was pregnant, she immediately went to the local clinic. And after talking with them there, they tried to talk her into having an abortion. And you could tell it was a very traumatic experience for her. And the idea that a nurse or a doctor that has no idea about her situation could say things such as your life could be ruined if you have a child, or you don't have to drop out of school. You can still go to school if you have this abortion. Your life won't change. It really struck me, and this was about a year ago, and she's actually here today, and you'll hear from her later. But it really got me thinking, how can we stop this? How can we prevent this from happening? Because I can imagine being someone who's young, just found out they were pregnant, how much emotions and fear could be in them. And to have someone, an authority figure, trying to impose their will on them, I think a night's sleep on a life-altering decision isn't too much to ask. And I don't think it causes an undue hardship. Looking into this, all abortions don't take place within the 24 hours. This is just to prevent the ability of maybe someone who's misguided or wrong to push their will onto someone. And in no way am I trying to say that most of the abortions that are had are done hastily, or to say that the women don't think about this, because I'm sure the vast majority of them do. But at a highly emotional state, you just found out you're pregnant, you shouldn't be immediately going to have an abortion, which is, no one could deny, a life-altering decision. You wouldn't fly out to California and change your life in an hour. You shouldn't do it with that. And with that, that's the reason I put it in. Again, I don't want to make it harder. I don't want to cause more hoops for anyone to jump through. It's just a simple night's sleep on such a major decision. I don't think it's too much to ask. And with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Representative Clark. Are there any questions? Senator Bartlett.
Why isn't the situation described covered under current law, which requires that the provider provide non-misleading counseling in order to obtain informed consent? But it sounds like perhaps in this circumstance, a nurse was going beyond the bounds of current law.
I would agree with that, and I'd also say that there's nowhere that you would have to sleep on it, and I think this is kind of where this is coming from. And the reason that got me thinking about how to maybe make it so that the woman is the one choosing this, and I think they should be able to from that perspective, it should be their decision. They should talk it with their family. They should, it's not the doctor's decision, and I believe they should have a part of that. But I think a night's sleep is a reasonable request, and that's the reason why I put it as it is.
Do you think perhaps there should be a minimum, some exception for someone who knew they were pregnant, made the decision to have an abortion, and they have to drive 3, 4, 5 hours to get to a provider?
You could possibly have it so that they could talk to them on the phone and then do a fax down form, that kind of thing. Again, I'm not trying to make it harder to get an abortion. I don't think that's not the intent at all. I don't think it's necessary to try to make it much more difficult. It's something like that shouldn't be same day kind of procedure, and that's what I'm trying to get away from.
Any other questions? Representative Rotello.
You didn't mention
the current law is written, minors and regular and everyone else is separate parts of the law. So because there's already provisions dealing with minors, they had to add that onto the minors, and then at the very end you see that it says for everyone. So that's how. I had questions on that too, but that's the reason.
May I ask another?
Certainly, please.
Sort of similar to what similar to Senator Bartlett's question. I know the example you gave talks about someone who's just found out they're pregnant, but what if this is a person who's known for a considerable amount of time, and because of distance or because of transportation issues, safety issues, a lot of other things in someone's personal life, do you see where that there's potential for that 24 hours to be actually a barrier to women who are trying to get
And I could see where something like that is, they could give their consent to their local hospital and they could fax it down to the clinic if there wasn't an area where they could get an abortion. Something along those lines. I mean, it basically just says they're signed consent of an abortion. I also want to add that there's a provision in there for the exception of medical emergencies. If a doctor defines it as medical emergency, then this does not apply at all. So there's no risk of that. I just want to add that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Representative Clark.
Thank you.